Always a pleasure to welcome David Alter into the show. And the man is so busy, he's doing this hit from his car. That's how committed he is. David from the Leafs Nation, all 32 delivered by DoorDash as well. Wayne Simmons talked after the game about, taking two penalties and it cost them 2 goals. There was talk about what the Leafs did wrong, but I kind of watched that game and went, I think Tampa Bay just did a lot right. And I view it as Tampa Bay winning that game and making a statement versus, maybe Toronto losing. What was your read on game 2 of this series?
It was somewhere in between. I do think Tampa eventually got their game going, but it took a while. Like throughout the entire first period, I thought the Leafs were the better team at 5-on-5. And if it wasn't for that late goal at the end of the period and a couple of other things that went against them, that I think Toronto kind of missed a real opportunity here to continue to catch Tampa sleeping a little bit with that slow start. But they did find their game in that second period, and their goaltending, that was really the hero for Tampa there. Even though they got the scoring and they did all of that, it was Andrei Vasilevsky who was really saving them in that opening period, and then that highlight reel save on Timothy Liljegren early in the second period as Toronto was trying to find an equalizer. All those things, I think, helped push Tampa to find what Tampa was, which was the world beaters, the two-time defending Stanley Cup champs, and eventually get them going back into it. So I think Toronto really did lose a really good opportunity here to go 2-up in the series.
So, David, as the series shifts to Tampa, I think it's probably fair to say still, though, that the Leafs are in a really good spot. They won game 1 on home ice, and now Tampa goes to their home building. But, I think everyone on the Leafs roster and throughout their front office were expecting a big pushback from the Lightning in game 2. How would you assess the sort of psyche or state of the Leafs at the moment, knowing that was coming and yet not really still being able to handle it?
Yeah, I think they've got a pretty good handle on the fact that this was going to be tough and that this was going to be a not so easy series in terms of how many games it might go and the challenge that it presents. I think perhaps the most surprising thing for them right now, and what head coach Sheldon Keefe talked about today, was the fact that there's been so many penalties called early on in this series, and some of the issues there where a lot of their identity, which is a strong 5-on-5 game, is not really showing, especially in that game too. So some discipline issues, some things like that kind of got Toronto in a little bit of a funk they feel like they can correct. So they feel pretty good about it in that regard. How they adjust to the line matches going on the road is something that's going to be really interesting to see how Sheldon Keefe handles that, because at home he's been able to kind of shield some guys, but looking for a good solid fourth line and a bit of a different mix, that's going to be a challenge. But in terms of where they feel, they seem to have a pretty good feel for where their game is at, and that they're prepared for this series. But I think from an officiating standpoint, perhaps the fact that so many penalties are being called and how they kind of have to adjust to their special teams is probably their biggest challenge at this point.
You talked about Andrei Vasilevsky and just how sensational he was in game 2. I mean, that's a guy who, when the Lightning are coming off a loss, his goals against average is like below 1.5. It's insane. In the other crease, a guy like Jack Campbell coming in, there were a lot of people wondering what the Leafs were going to get between the pipes. Well, it was a shutout in game 1, then he allows 5 in game 2. Has Campbell shown in these first 2 games that there's no reason for Leafs fans to maybe be concerned about what they're going to get between the pipes, or did game 2 change anything about that?
I didn't see a lot of doubt or fault lay the blame on someone like Campbell for some of the goals he gave up. Perhaps, if you want to be a top 5, top 10 goalie in the league and want to be among the best, sometimes you really do have to make a huge save that turns the tide, similar to what Vasilevsky did early in that second period. And so maybe there is some criticism on that.
About Matthews and Marner and how they've combined for 10 points. And in previous playoff runs in the entire first round, they never combined for more than 10 points. So maybe I'll just throw that your way, Frank, to wrap up the segment. What have you seen from Marner and Matthews? And have they maybe, there was some doubt about specifically Marner, his ability to maybe come through in big moments in the playoffs, but 5 points in 2 games, the Leafs stars have not been the problem.
No, not at all. And I think that's such a positive, even just to get that monkey off your back if you're Mitch Marner for game 1. breaking that 18-game goal drought was so big. It just allows you to just relax, exhale, feel some positivity and some confidence heading into the rest of the series. And it was nice to just be able to do it so early in the round so that the questions don't keep building. So fully expect Matthews and Marner to be at their sort of normal contribution level now. You've gotten the monkey off your back. Now just go out and play.
Yeah, 100%. The big thanks to David Alter for joining us for another edition of the All 32 delivered by DoorDash. You know the promo codes DFODD and DFODDUS. 25% off and no delivery fees on your first order when you use those two. This has been another edition of the All 32.